This is the Polestar 2 long-range dual motor that I'm running for about 10,000 Ks. I've now had it for about 8 weeks out here in Australia, and I'm on my first long-distance trip with the vehicle. To be fair, I'm only in Canberra, about 300 kilometres from where I live in Sydney, but with this vehicle having a usable range of about 400 kilometres, as I'm finding with this specification of car, it does require a little bit of planning to take it away from home. But in today's update, I'm going to let you know where my feelings are at with the Polestar 2, the features that I'm liking of the car, there's little niggles that are developing that I wish I had have changed in spec and I wish Polestar might change next time around, and then I'll let you know about my energy consumption and range. But before we get started, hit subscribe below. One thing I haven't found so good about my Polestar 2 since I took delivery of the car, box fresh with just 18 kilometers on it from the dealership, is the energy consumption, which is quite high for its size and shape. Now, in a review of a petrol or diesel car, this would be the point where I lifted the bonnet and started talking about the engine and the consumption. But here in the Polestar 2, we just have a frunk, because beneath that, this car has one 150 kilowatt motor, and it's got another 150 kilowatt motor out the back. So I did splurge a little bit with my order for this car. It is the dual motor long range, so it's got lots of power, but it also doesn't mind a drink. I've been finding in my day-to-day driving, just commuting around Sydney, up to the northern beaches, all around the city, I generally use about 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers of electricity, which is definitely beyond what you'd be using in a Kia EV6, a Tesla Model 3, or especially something super efficient like a Hyundai Ioniq electric. So much like Volvo's, the Polestar 2 is not great on the fuel that you put into it. However, it wasn't as bad on the motorway as I was expecting. On the way to Canberra, which is broadly uphill and 110 kilometers per hour, it only consumed about 21.5 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. I'm expecting to use less than that on the way back to Sydney, which is pretty well downhill, probably be in the high teens, I should suspect. But I am finding that as a result of this consumption, I'm only getting about 400 kilometers out of a tank of electricity, when it should be kind of 450 or a little bit higher than that in terms of its WLTP claim. So falling a little bit short of the consumption and range claims for me, so far at least. Styling and packaging is one thing that has really grown on me. At first I thought the Polestar 2 looked a little bit plain, but now I see that in the same vein as good-looking Volvos like the XC90 or the V60 Cross Country, the Polestar 2 is a vehicle where the designers knew when to put the pencil down. And here around the back, I love the fact that it has no real branding apart from the white Polestar logo. You do get slightly dicky stickers on the front doors that tell you what model it is, how much power it's got, and the size of the battery. I think you'd probably peel those off, because I think the stealth look is just fantastic. Styling is one thing though, the packaging in the vehicle is also really good. We've got some of our camera gear in here at the moment. I'll just move that out of the way, because one of the things that's awesome about the Polestar 2 is that you get a whole bunch of Volvo touches as well, including a grocery bag holder with straps, you get a wine bottle holder, you get a little net off to the left-hand side, or right-hand side of the boot, I should say, as well. But underneath that boot floor, you'll only find a big old cavity for your charging cables. You get a couple of types of charging cables in there, but you won't find a spare wheel. And of course, there's the fact that the Polestar 2 is a hatchback. It looks like a sedan from the outside. That's just a trick. The whole lift gate opens here, meaning putting a bicycle in or fitting baby seats couldn't be easier in the Polestar 2. Definitely better than a conventional sedan, though as a wagon guy myself, I do look forward to the day when Polestar releases a traditional station wagon. The interior of the Polestar 2 is a real mixed bag for me so far. There are elements that I really love, some things I've changed my mind on, and then there are things which I wish I'd done differently or that I wish Polestar would change in future. One great thing is that the Polestar 2 has excellent seats. They are really comfortable. Clearly this car has a lot in common with other Volvos. It sits on the same CMA platform as the Volvo XC40, for instance. But Volvos typically have great seats, and so does the Polestar 2. They're shapely, they have heaps of electric adjustment, and I was able to do like a 4-hour stint in this car and stay totally comfortable, which says a lot about the shape of the seat. And they also have seat heating. That being said, I still regret choosing this vegan WeaveTech upholstery that is part of the Plus package on the Polestar 2 in Australia. The base model just has normal cloth seats, which would have been fine. They are manually adjustable, so you would lose a little bit of range in the adjustment of the seat. But for another $6,000, you can also have Napa leather in barley, which is like a beige color with fan cooling. Now, $6,000 is a lot more to spend on just a bit of leather, but I think I'd have to do that because that's the only way you can get electric adjustment, but also fan cooling in the seat, because the seat upholstery is so hot. If the temperature outside is over 20 degrees, you start to sweat in this seat. Now today it's under that and they're fine, totally bearable. So in winter, in cold climates, the WeaveTech is the way to go. If you live anywhere like Australia where it gets fairly warm, even fairly warm, you want to get either the base cloth seat or the upgraded Napa leather with cooling. Another thing which isn't perfect in the Polestar 2, and you can't really change by specifying it differently, is the secondary material that's used everywhere, like on the bridge, on the glove box, and up on the doors. It marks so easily. I'm a fairly tidy person and I don't invite passengers back who are really messy, but virtually every panel in the interior is marked just from a subtle graze of the knuckles or a knee or a foot. And it just looks really untidy and yucky and needs constant upkeep in order to keep the marks off this material, so that's a bit disappointing. But one area where I've actually totally changed my mind is the infotainment system. Like a bunch of emerging Volvo models, the Polestar 2 has integrated Android for its software, and I actually really like it. You don't get Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Instead, you have to run everything through this, so you do miss out on Waze. But we've got integrated Google Maps. It works brilliantly. Obviously, the search is fantastic, and it works offline as well for when you don't have phone reception for the car's LTE modem. But you also have a whole bunch of apps from the Play Store, Spotify, Pocket Casts for podcasts, and a whole bunch of other ones as well that use the car's data connection and actually offer a more full app experience than CarPlay or Android Auto. Particularly Spotify is really, really good on this system. But looking forward, we have a Google map that sits in front of you, but basically nothing else apart from your energy consumption. I can't see my music there, so if you've got a full screen map here, you can only have a full screen map here as well. So in future, I'd like to see Polestar and Volvo integrate more views into the digital cockpit like the cars used to have with Volvo's sensor system. Another thing I really like in here is the Harman Kardon stereo. It sounds really good. There are more pros and cons when it comes to the driving experience of the Polestar 2. A massive pro, which you very quickly get used to, is the fact that there's no on-off button or ignition or anything like that. You just get in, select the gear you want, or the direction you want. It's a direction shifter really, and then you go. Of course, Tesla did this first, you know, all credit to them, but it works just as well here in the Polestar 2. And very quickly when you're driving combustion cars, you go, well, why can't I just get in and select the gear? It's a really nice little convenience feature for me. Then there's the fact that while all Polestar 2s feel quite sprightly, the dual motor is especially so. It actually feels in some ways like an electric Mitsubishi Evo 10 to me, because it's almost like it's got like a proper center differential and exactly 50-50 power and torque front and rear, which gives it this really neutral kind of personality in town, but then especially out on a country road like this where you just have immediate ability to punch out of a corner. Any push understeer that bleeds in from the significant heft of the car, it's like 2,050 kilos on our scales, can be wiped off immediately just by getting into the pedal. That makes it super easy to drive fast, and with the performance package as I have on my Polestar 2 with the Öhlins dampers, the ride is super level. There's virtually no body roll, but when you set those Öhlins dampers to their maximum soft profile, as I have done, it's a really nice ride quality, not crashy, definitely firm, definitely a fair bit of road feel, but not uncomfortable. It's just about right for a car with 300 kilowatts. It feels sporty. So that's cool. Downside, one of them, you can probably hear it already, is that there's a fair bit of road noise. And there just seems to be insufficient noise insulation in the wheel arches, because it is really loud in this car on coarse chip. On a smoothly surfaced highway or at town speeds, it's not noticeable and it's really quiet. You can turn up the Harman Kardon, but it has to be quite loud on coarse chip in order to defeat the road noise. But there's no kind of whine to the motors. They're really quiet and refined, and there's also no artificial sound pumped in at all. It's just quiet when you accelerate, which I quite like actually. Another thing that's good is the steering rack is quite quick, which suits the sporty character of the car. Front end grip is good, so the car turns in a pretty agile way for something so heavy, and that's because the battery is really located between the axles. That's where most of the weight is. That being said, the car doesn't have limits as high as like a BMW M340i or something like that, which is kind of similar in price and performance, but is lighter all around. But for the amount of immense torque available on tap at 0 RPM, the Polestar 2 feels really good, and I'm enjoying driving the car. That being said, there's no need to completely tap into all the power all the time, because it's definitely sprightly enough, but the harder you go into that pedal, the less range you have. And as I've already talked about, the range is already a bit marginal actually. And I was saying it was using kind of 22 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks and giving 400 kilometers of range, but of course that's not right. With a 75 kilowatt hour usable battery, that's like 340 Ks of range, which is too short for a vehicle of this price and in this segment up against the Model 3. So I think for the next month or two, I might try driving quite conservatively to see where I can get it to, because to get to 450 Ks of range, for instance, I really need to be doing like 17 kilowatt hours per 100, which is a lot lower than the consumption that I've been getting so far. So already about a third of my time with the Polestar 2 is gone, and I'm really starting to figure out my feelings on the car. That being said, I'm on a country road trip now, and I've got a bunch of other road trips planned for the vehicle, which is where you really get to know a particular car. And the more time I spend with the Polestar 2, the more it grows on me. The high energy consumption is a bit of a worry, and I look forward to updating you further over the next several thousand kilometers for where that starts to sit on a more permanent basis. But for now, it's definitely thirstier than a Model 3. But some of the aspects of the vehicle also feel a little more mature than the Tesla, and the seats are by far and away better in the Polestar 2, but particularly if you opt for the cooled Napa leather rather than the vegan stuff that just runs too hot. Still very keen to hear your suggestions on what you'd like to see us do with this Polestar 2. Drop those down below the video in the comments. While you're there, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell too. And as always, thank you for watching Chasing Cars.